Are you concerned at all about the workload that you put in so far today?
No. Let me die out there. No, I'm just playing. No, I'm not concerned, but whenever the coach want to give me a day, then, I'll support it, but I'm not looking for one. You get what I'm saying? So I'm going to just play until they tell me that I'm sitting up. But that's not on my mind when I'm playing. That's not on my mind when I'm going into a game, preparing for a game. It is what it is. I got to play 40. I got to play, so what? You know what I'm saying? I'm going to play, but if they tell me to sit out, I'm going to do the same thing.
All right, we got a big game in the Eastern Conference tonight.
Yes.
We have Nets at Bulls, which means we have Kyrie Irving playing for the Brooklyn Nets, and we're also expected to have James Harden playing. James Harden, of course, has a knee injury that forced him to sit out the last Nets game against the Blazers, but they're expected to have Harden, I believe. So we got the top two teams in the Eastern Conference facing off tonight. And to help us talk about that and more around the association, Nekias Duncan from Basketball News, friend of the show, is back. We just heard from KD, which, no surprise, KD's a hooper. I hoop and do me. I think that's his mantra anyway, right? So KD doesn't care how many minutes he plays. But what I do know, Nekias, is that the Bulls have already taken 2 from the Nets this season. Again, it's regular season. Nets have guys in and out. They're practically 2 different teams with Kyrie playing on the road, yada, yada, yada. For a regular season game in January, kind of rate the significance of tonight's game, especially from the Nets' perspective, given how they struggled against good teams in general, Bulls in particular.
I think that point is why it's more than a regular season game for Brooklyn. Like, I think overarching, like, we know when healthy, the Nets are a contender. Like, that's not a question. But it does kind of get a little bit weird as you get deeper into the season. They just can't beat good teams outside of Cleveland, and they're good, but they're also young and just don't have the offensive firepower that Brooklyn does. So if I had to put a number on it, like maybe a 5.5, maybe a 6, which is still kind of high for a regular season game for me. But the Nets have to prove at some point that they can knock off some of the elite talent in their conference and the league at large.
All right, Nekias, you talk about this game, and Michael asked you to look at it from a Nets perspective. How about from a Bulls perspective? I mean, this team, we thought they'd improve, and, hey, maybe they'll make the playoffs. They'll be like, 5, 6 seed. They look like a really good contending Eastern Conference team. Do you think that they can sustain that and be a team that can actually win this conference?
Win the conference is where I'm like, I would like to see them add another wing, another forward, someone to kind of fill in the role that they were expecting Patrick Williams to fill this season before he got hurt. If they can solidify a move, then I'm comfortable saying that they have a solid chance. Right now, I think they're second-round team, maybe in the Eastern Conference Finals if the bracket breaks right. But even with that, that is far above the expectations that I have. I've taken a huge L on Chicago Bulls this season. Full disclosure, I remember over the offseason, just doing like a random Q&A on Twitter, someone asked me, like, what's your ceiling for the Bulls team right now? And I was like, probably 6th for me. And I immediately got flamed by Bulls fans. And my thing was, I just don't believe in this defense. Like, I know the offensive fit makes sense, but I don't know how they're going to defend. And their defense has been better than their offense for most of the year. So I've been wildly impressed with what DeMar DeRozan has done, what Zach LaVine has continued to build upon. I think this is kind of house money for them. They beat the Nets twice already. Like, this is the first time they're going to see them with the full assortment. So we'll see what that looks like. But the shot creation is there. The defense is there. It's more so about just continue to have that level of confidence. And again, if they can make one more move, then I'm feeling better about them.
You know, when they got, I want to ask you about DeRozan. When they got DeRozan, it was almost like Basketball America gave like a shrug. Oh, that's nice. That's cute. You got DeMar DeRozan. No, but it's much, is he the guy who surprised you the most on the Bulls? And if not, like, who has been that guy where you're like, whoa, I didn't know he had that?
I think it is DeMar for me. Like, what he's done as a shot creator throughout his career is well known, or it should be at this point. The passing improvements that he's made has been probably a little understated just because he did so in San Antonio, and they were a low-end playoff team, and then they weren't one. So if you just didn't have your league pass on, if you don't live in Texas, then you just weren't seeing the kind of creation duties that he had there. But it's been fun to watch him put it all together. This Bulls team fits him. He has more spacing around him. He has a guy in Zach LaVine and in Nikola Vucevic that you could run the offense through them for a few possessions. More than that, obviously, but you can run the offense through them, and he can unlock some of his game as a cutter. And that's something that we haven't really seen since the early Toronto days. And so the biggest surprise, at least early in the season, the defense from him. He's not elite at all, but with the Bulls playing as aggressively as they do need him on that back line to rotate in early when they send two to the ball. Just be a presence and give their guys time to recover and then scramble back out to the perimeter to contest shots. Very simple job for him. He's been able to do that. And so as long as he isn't a super negative on the defensive end combined with what he brings offensively, this is why he's the fringe MVP candidate that he is right now.
Okay, no need to ask you about that because you already answered it. That's why you're so good at this. You answered the question before I could ask about those three letters. All right, so let's pivot. Let's go to another game tonight. Lakers at Kings. Now, I mean the Lakers 500 team, right around 500. You know they go from this 5-game losing streak to winning 5 out of 6. They take the L against Ja Morant and the Grizzlies the other night. And we'll get to that in a second. But now. If I count correctly, we're looking at something like 9 out of 12 on the road. They're gonna be on the road a lot these next few weeks. Okay, my count might be wrong, but it could get hard. It could potentially get ugly for them. LeBron's look great at center. How are you watching the Lakers? And the reason I bring up LeBron, Nekias, is I'm not even watching the Lakers through the lens, and I know this is blasphemous in LA. I'm not looking at the Lakers through the lens of championship contender or can LeBron get back to the finals? You know, can they figure it out? They are who they are as far as I'm concerned. Even when Anthony Davis comes back, I think they're fatally flawed. I'm looking at LeBron just through the prism of like, damn, now dude's balling at center. Now he's playing small ball center right now. You know, he got the same numbers at 37 that he had at 27. So I just wonder, what are you looking at when you watch the Lakers these days? What are you seeing? What's standing out to you?
It is the LeBron thing. I recently wrote a piece at Basketball News detailing what LeBron at centers look like. His per 36 numbers are something like 35, 10, and 6 when he's on the floor without a center, which is, I don't have to tell you how absurd that is. And the shooting splits are even better. But like that's been the fun for me, just watching him fill whatever hole that they need. It's kind of an indictment on the rest of the roster because in theory, when you have Anthony Davis currently out, and you have Russell Westbrook, the entire point of surrounding LeBron with those guys is so he wouldn't have to do everything. And now it's just like, okay, I'm going to run the offense. I'm also going to be this weak side rim protector. Sometimes I'm going to be the primary rim protector because we just can't trust any of our bigs to play. And it's been incredible to watch. For him to be tasked with this is ridiculous, but the fact that he's pulling it off, it just speaks to the level of greatness that he has.
Yeah, and those road games I was talking about, sorry, real quick, it's 11 of the next 15. Yep. 11 of the next 15 Lakers games on the road. So, I mean, record-wise, I mean, even though they figure something out with LeBron at the 5, it could be ugly for the Lakers. Sorry, Michael, you about to ask?
No, I was going to ask if Nekias, I love the way you phrase it, Mike, when you talked about the Lakers and how, you know, really look at them through the prism of championship team, fatally flawed. I wonder if Nekias agrees with your assessment of the Lakers. Do you
premise?
Think that, yeah, that they're not really a championship team and that even when Anthony Davis returns, they just got too many parts that don't fit?
I think I'm out right now as far as title contention. Anthony Davis's presence could change that. Like heading into the year, my finals pick was Bucks Lakers. And so I've been kind of holding out. All right, it's going to look ugly in the beginning, but, you know, they're going to figure out some things with Russ. We're going to see what AD looks like. And we just got later and later into the season. It's like, no, this isn't getting better. And now we're at the LeBron at center point of the season. So I can't really get there with them as far as them in title contention. Golden State has been ridiculous. Phoenix remains ridiculous. Please keep an eye on Utah, though they also need a move defensively just to make me feel a little bit more comfortable when it gets small. I can't get there with Lakers as a title contender right now.
The only team you didn't mention there, maybe it was intentionally, maybe you just, you know, happened to omit them just because you were rattling off teams, is Memphis. 10 in a row. Another MVP candidate in Ja Morant. And their recent run is not like just taking advantage of a favorable schedule. They're beating really good teams as they climb the charts. I think they're 3.5 games at the moment out of first place, behind the Suns in the Western Conference. I considered Memphis a contender, and I think Michael agreed with me. We considered Memphis a contender before last night, and we may have been late to the train. So last night they beat the Warriors, albeit without Draymond Green, but hell, they were winning without Ja Morant. Everybody without somebody nowadays, right? That's the world we live in. So no asterisk there. They beat the Warriors last night. Would you put Memphis in the contender category the way in the Western Conference, the way that Michael and I would?
I think it's fair to put them there, honestly. You made the point about it's not like they were taking advantage of a poor schedule. That was the case at least a little bit early in their run. I think it's now, shout out to my co-host at the Dunker Spot, Steve Jones Jr. I think they've won 20 of their last 24, if I have that right. Early on in the season, their defense was awful. And then they kind of course corrected as they faced a bunch of bad offenses. But now they just have their rhythm defensively. They're the defensive team that we saw last year. And now you add that to what Ja Morant is doing offensively. Jaren Jackson Jr. being healthy and taking the leap as a creator. Desmond Bane has been lighting the world on fire as a movement shooter, as a secondary ball handler. So they have that three-headed monster offense.
Tyus Jones.
Tyus Jones.
Right.
Floater gang, Tyus Jones. Like, they just get it from everywhere now. They have the depth, they have the star power, they have the secondary pieces, they have the coaching. Taylor Jenkins is really freaking good as a coach. And we saw that last year. He's further put his stamp on this team this year in the midst of early injuries. I'm not mad at putting them there. I wouldn't have them in the Golden State Phoenix tier, but like, I'm not mad at having them there.
No? Okay. In the past week and a half alone, they've beaten the Nets, Cavs, Clippers, Lakers, and Warriors. And they've won 12 of their last 15. They're just, more than anything, they're fun.
Yeah,
like, I mean, you
fun.
just
Exactly.
side note.
They're fun
I mean,
team to
yeah,
watch.
right. I want to see them go deep because I want to see more of them. Man, last night it was a great family moment, actually. Like, by the end of the night, all of us were on my bed. So I'm here. My wife's here. I'm here. The dog's over there. Savannah's at my feet. Maya's next to me. Mason's next to the dog. We all watching Grizzlies Warriors on NBA TV. It's just they might be, Ja Morant and the Grizzlies might be the most must-see team right now. In a league full of star-studded teams, you gotta stop what you're doing to watch the Grizzlies these days.
I would agree. Like, every game there is a ridiculous Ja Morant finish. If you're not tuning in for anything else, just look at what that dude does when he gets to the rim. He's insane.
Well, now the last thing, we're talking about the Grizzlies. I agree with everything that we've just said about the Grizzlies, and they're a lot of fun to watch. But they did beat a team last night that had Klay Thompson in his second game back. And I know it was a great moment. First game, 17 points, 20 minutes. Last night, some a little shakier, a little rustier at times. What's your vision for the Warriors as they reincorporate Klay Thompson into the rotation?
One is just getting them comfortable. It's good to see them out there. As far as like the nuts and bolts of it, I'm curious to see how Steve Kerr reconfigures the lineups, because they did have a great flow there before Klay got in. And like, you don't say he's disrupting things, he's Klay freaking Thompson. But I want to see where they use him. Something that I've kind of been simmering on, this is something I've talked to a few people about. Like, I wonder if Klay at the 4 is going to become more of a thing. Like, does he soak up the Andre Iguodala minutes? Since he's been at the 4, if the shot isn't falling, or if he just isn't where he needs to be defensively. I would like to see, like, what if they close out a game with Steph and Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. That's plenty of spacing. Like, straight Klay, even before the injuries, really good perimeter defender, but he's always been one of the stronger wings in the league. So I think now, as the league is modernized a little bit more, he can hold his own at the 4 in certain lineups. So, like, I want to see, that's probably going to be the thing I'm keying in on. Like, where are they going to use Klay, and how are they going to fit the lineups around him as he gets more comfortable?
All right, brother. We appreciate you. Nekias Duncan, basketball news. Appreciate the knowledge, brother. A nice T-shirt. Like, we appreciate. I mean, like, let him see what's up. You got the memo. You got the, there you go, a little KG Slam magazine throwback. There you go. You got the memo. Fitting right in every time. Appreciate you, man. Make sure you follow my man. Read his incredible work over at Basketball News. Thanks, bro. We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.